What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on FantasyPros with a 12-team full PPR mock where we will be selecting 10th overall. Should be pretty interesting. Our roster, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and then 5 bench spots. But that's pretty much it. So let's kick this thing off. And while we wait for it to load, a quick reminder, if you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear it in the comment section. Agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have. We'll do our best to answer them all. But with that being said, let's take a look at what we have to work with here. The draft board. McCaffrey first, then Lamb, then Tyreek, then Brees. Jamar Chase, Bijan falls to the 106. Pretty good value. Jahmyr Gibbs goes at the 107. I don't mind that. Amon-Ra, Justin Jefferson. So the reason why Jahmyr Gibbs, was selected here, I would say full PPR formats. People realize the pass catching upside. That is the primary reason. So now we have a decision to make. Do we go with a Garrett Wilson and then pray that somehow JT or Saquon Barkley falls to us, which I'll be honest with you, I don't think happens. We can take the gamble and see the way it plays out, though. So, whoa. Okay, so let's break down my reaction there a little bit. I took Garrett Wilson, A.J. Brown went, then Puka Nacua. Then Marvin Harrison. I mean, I'm not super surprised by that, but it's still too early, obviously. The reason I'm saying wow is because, first and foremost, both Jonathan Taylor and Saquon Barkley are still there, but also because Cooper Kupp just went at the 202. Look, I get it. Puka Nacua is banged up, but Cooper Kupp at that point in time would be a reach. So let's call that out. Now, again, there is some variability built out in the selections via FantasyPros, but this is one of those extremes. However, I will say I was just recording a draft on ESPN where one of the guys was selecting just tight ends every single round. So, hey, this is better than that since we had to scrap that video. So, to some extent, I kind of wish you guys were able to see that for reaction purposes on my end. But no, instead, I said, let's scrap that. Let's run this back here on FantasyPros. And, this is the result we get here. But I'm going to pull up the draft board, see how this thing is looking. So we went with Jonathan Taylor. Then it was Devontae Adams, Saquon Barkley, a decent run on running backs here. Barkley, Etienne, Kyron, Pacheco. Then the wide receivers, Waddle, Olave, Stephon Diggs ahead of Nico Collins. Can't say that I've seen that too often. So, chalk that up to another abnormality. Derrick Henry, Travis Kelce, Josh Allen, Achane, Jalen Hurts, Drake London, Patrick Mahomes, Ayuk, Mike Evans, Sam Laporta. So now looking at our cheat sheet, if we're going running backs, I'm looking at Rachaad White. I'm looking at Kamara, James Cook. Wide receivers, we've got Pittman, we've got Nico, we've got Debo, we've got DJ Moore. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select one of these running backs. I've been getting higher and higher on James Cook personally, even though I think Rachaad White and Alvin Kamara are also very solid choices. I'm going to go with James Cook. Let's see what happens here. DJ Moore and Nico Collins were selected. Michael Pittman at this point in time is a pretty good value. I've got James Cook. I've got Jonathan Taylor. We could go a little bit running back heavier. Rachaad White, Josh Jacobs were selected. We could go Alvin Kamara here, a nice PPR back option. I'm kind of leaning that way, to be honest with you guys. I know that Michael Pittman is still there. I've already got Jonathan Taylor. I don't want to load up too much on this Colts squad. So let's go with Alvin Kamara. I'm gonna approach it that way. I imagine we're gonna see some running backs go, and at least we have our trio of running backs set. So after Kamara, Debo, Joe Mixon, CJ Stroud, Pittman goes, tremendous value at the 407. Devonta Smith, McBride at the 409. Malik Neighbors, Andrews, Lamar. Then in the 5th round, DK, Kenneth Walker, Anthony Richardson, Kirk, Joe Burrow, Dalton Kincaid. Again, I really wanted Kincaid to fall to me. wasn't meant to be. Zay Flowers, Amari Cooper, James Conner. So now we can address the wide receiver position. And I really like T. Higgins at this point in time as a solid number 2. So let's go in that direction and fill out that wide receiver 2 spot. And then we will be selecting another wide receiver. I want to load up on the pass catchers. We could go with a tight end here in Evan Ingram or Dak Prescott, but I will probably wait on tight end, maybe go with somebody like a Jake Ferguson instead if he's still there. So I'm looking at the options here. Terry McLaurin, George Pickens, Rashee Rice, Tank Dell. They're kind of the top names that I'm considering in that order. So I kind of lean Terry McLaurin. At least, he's the wide receiver 1 in his respective team. I'm a little bit nervous with Pickens with the quarterback play I've seen from the Steelers. Again, it's preseason, though, so trying not to put too much stock into that. Rashee Rice, I think, solid choice in Kansas City. But, again, they have added some more targets there. Tank Dell, a lot of targets as well. I think it's going to be really tough just to pinpoint on a week-to-week basis who's going to be the top guy, whereas I have less question marks there with Terry McLaurin. So let's go with Terry, and I imagine a lot of those wide receivers that we were looking at are going to be scooped up. I'm perfectly fine with that. So now we can start looking maybe at tight end. Ooh, and we get a little bit lucky, and here's why. After Terry McLaurin, DeAndre Swift, Dak Prescott, Zamir White, George Pickens, Kyle Pitts, so one of those tight ends does get selected. Then Godwin, then Brian Robinson, Keenan Allen, Tank Dell, Calvin Ridley, Spears, Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, David Montgomery, Rashee Rice, Raheem Mostert, Jordan Love. But I believe, if I've been keeping track of this, that Evan Ingram is still on the board. I think that's a good value at this point in time. I was potentially bringing him up in the last round. So Evan Ingram here is an easy choice. Screw you, Fantasy Pros, slight reach. It's not a slight reach. It's it's where he should have been going. So now looking at running backs, looking at wide receivers. Let's see if there's any wide receivers that I'm like, all right, I need to get this guy. So wide receivers, JSN, Hopkins, McConkey, Cortland Sutton, nothing here that's like, all right, I need this guy. Lad McConkey could be a decent situation. He had a minor injury, high upside rookie. If we wanted to go with a running back, though, I think we could go with a Jonathan Brooks here. That's pretty tempting. A guy for the end of the season type of run. Chase Brown, Zach Moss. You could also pull the trigger on one of them. Jerome Ford, Nick Chubb. I like both those options. More so Nick Chubb, excuse me, Jerome Ford. I'm going to go with Jonathan Brooks as the running back pickup, as a upside guy late in the season. Let's see how that pans out. I could also just handcuff him here with Chuba Hubbard so that I have the backfield for Carolina locked up. I'm kind of leaning that way, honestly. And I've been saying before that Chuba Hubbard is just a really good value. So I think that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to take Chuba Hubbard, and I've got that backfield locked up for Carolina. Now let's look at some wide receivers. Cortland Sutton. I don't love the quarterback situation in Denver. I think here, I've been mentioning the names before. Guys like a Brian Thomas, guys like a Josh Palmer, Curtis Samuel. Samuel dealing with a turf toe injury, though, so kind of scares me a little bit. Maybe the Keon Coleman stock will go up. Maybe the Shakir stock will go up. I think probably I'll go with a high upside rookie. I'll go with Brian Thomas. Kind of makes sense. Or we could go with our high upside quarterback in Jaden Daniels. We'll see if he's still there. If not, it's totally fine. In the next round, he actually is, because most people at this point in time have already selected a quarterback. So, now we can select our quarterback, high upside quarterback. There we go. And if we want to select another, let's see if there's any great running backs left. I mean, nothing incredible. Wide receivers, Josh Palmer still there. Something to keep in mind. And I think right now I like our running back depth with Taylor, Cook, Kamara, and basically a fourth guy here in Brooks/Hubbard. Wide receivers, Wilson, Higgins, McLaurin, Brian Thomas, we're okay there. If I was going with an upside guy, I'd go either Palmer or Curtis Samuel. But let's practice, smart drafting here. Back up the inexperienced Jaden Daniels with a guy that also has a stack for us in Aaron Rodgers with Garrett Wilson. And that will wrap things up, I believe. So let's see our final draft grade here. I like how this thing turned out. We get a B+ grade. And, I agree. Our running backs, JT, James Cook, high upside guys, Garrett Wilson, wide receiver, T. Higgins, Evan Ingram, solid tight end presence, Alvin Kamara is our flex. We can swap him out with a McLaurin. We can swap him out with a Hubbard or a Jonathan Brooks. So a lot of options there. And I think our running back depth is very solid. Brian Thomas, high upside rookie. And then I've got Rodgers to back up Jaden Daniels. So I like how this thing turned out. But hey, let me know your thoughts if you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have. We'll do our best to answer them all. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future